Father's Day. I was dreaming this morning as I woke up and I was speaking to my family. This is the day I can hit snooze twice. Leave the seat up. Don't have to weigh in. Turn myself on. Eat whatever I want. I don't have to walk the dog or settle any arguments. I will wear what I want kind of day. Where Dad's chair is off limits, along with the remote. Even if I fall asleep, no one is allowed to change the channel. To my kids, rub my feet, pull my finger, laugh at all my jokes. Eat what I want when I want. My children will come when I call. And so will my wife. With a Diet 7-Up and fully salted Doritos. It's the day that I will shoot par on the golf course. It's the day I get to go to the golf course. If I choose to go to the store, the lines will be short and I will have no price checks. Everyone will look out for me on the highway. No comments on my driving. All construction on 35 will be done. And make the day perfect. The Cowboys will be playing and they will be beating the Eagles, Redskins, and Giants all at the same time. And then after eating a deep dish pizza with 9 toppings, I will fall asleep in my own coma. Then I woke up to my wife going, "Hey, get ready, we're going to walk the dog." And then I ate my grapes and my watermelon for breakfast and weighed in. Kissed my wife and said, "What are we eating today?" It's good stuff. It's a good life. Father's Day. What a wonderful time. Well, one of the things we want to do during this time, though, is we want to honor some people this morning. So with the Distinguished Service Awards. And also we have this morning, we've had over the last year, we've had a lot of hurt. We've had a lot of people go home and be with Jesus. And so pardon us this morning as we take a little bit of time to do that as Gail comes. A lot taller. There you go.
Thank you. For those of you that are present here that don't know about missionary health care and how we provide that through our church, we do that with the memorial roll certificates as well as the Distinguished Service Awards. So I have 3 of those. And this year, those awards became $125 each. The memorial rolls will be $75, plus whenever we get a copy, those come a little cheaper, they're only $25. But they go for a good purpose. So, the cost of providing insurance for Nazarene missionaries is quite high. In fact, the cost for health insurance alone for a year is approximately $1.9 million, and the costs continue to rise, just like for everybody else. Yet the Church of the Nazarene wants its missionaries to be able to serve and not worry about where they will scrape up the cost of the next premium. Nazarene Missions International has helped subsidize some of these funds since as early as 1919. Through your giving to the Memorial Roll, Distinguished Service Award, Gift from the Heart, and Missionary Health Care plate offerings, you have helped offset approximately 23% of those insurance costs. Thank you. The remaining 77% of the insurance cost is provided by the World Evangelism Fund. So, 2 important facts to remember are, the more money that comes in from missionary health care, the more money from the World Evangelism Fund can be used specifically for evangelism. Giving to World Evangelism Fund affects many aspects of missions in the Church of the Nazarene. So whether you want to give locally or directly to the church, please, I I would ask you to please pass it through our church so we get credit for that. It's all in that reaching the goal of being a 10% church. And then the memorial roll, certificates, this is what it says on each. If to die is to be seen with clear vision, all mysteries revealed, and away is swept the curtain from joys which are now concealed. If to die is to greet all the martyrs and prophets and sages of old, and to joyously meet by still waters the flock of our own little fold. If to die is to join in hosannas to a risen, reigning Lord, and to, I think I need to go see the doctor, and to feast with him at his table on the bread and wine of his board. If to die is to enter a city and be hailed as a child of its king, O grave, where soundeth the triumph, O death, where hideth the sting. So that's on all those memorial roll certificates with the name of the honoree below, and then it's for memorial roll. So with that, I'm going to start calling people forward to receive their certificates. Betty Williams.
I'll bring yours back, Betty. I'm already up.
Jenny Smith. Don't see someone who's here. Thank you. Don Kelsey. Samantha. Larry Hall. He's busy. Oh, no, he isn't. Here he is. Judy Turner. Jason Randall. Right here. Colleen. Right here. Betty Stewart. Don Marchant. I saw her. You're sitting in a different pew. Beulah? Are you short? Short dress. Billy Smashton? Bob Lawson. He was just unexpectedly in, and I didn't have to mail this to him, so hey, just come up and get it himself. He also made copies of our CDs for us, so saved us some money there, which we can do legally because we purchased a set. Okay. Carolyn Moore? This lady is so helpful. She will help you drop the hat. Nothing expected. She came in to Fall Festival and I said, Carolyn, I need your help. Okay, what can I do? And she's very creative, as all of you that have seen her cakes can testify to that. This certificate says creativity in helping bring emphasis to each month's mission focus for our dessert and our evening of missions lessons. Always willing to step in to help with no knows. Thank you, Carol. Lori Andrew Buckle. Lori? There you are. I was looking across that one. Efforts in recording our Sunday morning worship services and sharing them online, teaching, reaching out around the world, and helping us Skype interview our Links missionary one night. So thank you for your efforts. He's helped us by leading this church in our search for a new shepherd, helping in the sale of the church parsonage, helping bring CCA in, and the sale of the property which will enable the church to become debt-free. Thank you for participating in it, and you know, it's good to be able to spend the money and help the missionary health fund, but gosh, let's stay healthy. Amen.
Good stuff. Well, today we're going to do something. We're going to go on an adventure a little bit in the book of 1 Samuel chapter 17. And you'll look at that and nobody panic, because there's 58 verses in chapter 17 of 1 Samuel. I saw your eyes, precious. They just went, whoa. And there's people going, I've got lunch. I don't want to eat it for dinner. But we'll get through it. We're not going to read it all. We're going to get through it. But as we get ready, before we get into that, though, there's a couple things I wanted to share with you this morning that I brought. See, my wife put this together, and today's sermon title is Daddies Are Afraid of Spiders Too. We're just not allowed to show it, but we do every now and then. I'll never forget Jacqueline screaming like she was dying, and I come flying to the house. She comes running out of the bathroom, towel and everything. Says, Dad, kill it! Kill what? The spider. It's that big. And I go back in there, and I'm looking in the shower. Where is it? She's like, it's right there. And while it was only this big, you know, when I went to kill it, it's like, I hope I'm fast enough. Because, you know, when we have fear, we have that. There's three things. You can freeze, you flee, or you fight. Well, fathers, we tend to do all three at times. We're frozen before we get there. Then we convince ourselves it's only a little spider. Then we hit it and fight, and then we run. Just like everybody else. I'll never forget, I don't like spiders, I really don't. Even this one up here, this little thing right here, this big thing right here, it's not cute. It's a spider. I have a couple real quick about spiders. Pastor Rose saw a tarantula while he was out walking. And I was in my football practice, coaching all my guys. We're out on the field, we have football, and one of the guys goes, "Coach, look!" I went, "What?" He goes, "Tarantula!" In our football practice. It must have been, anywhere. And so for me, I picked up rocks. I was going to fight. And the rocks we had were like little chunks of concrete, block. And I have those in my hand. And my assistant coach walks up, and he's like, "Oh, Coach," he goes, "Coach, they're not too bad." He starts doing like this. This is where I found out the tarantulas jump. And it jumped up on his legs. And I started to fire rocks at that thing as fast as I could. And he's yelling because I'm pretty accurate. He's like, "Coach, stop!" I was like, "Hit with rocks." The spider finally got off. That's the reason why Pastor Rose said he found one out. I said that one deserves an AK-47, AR-15. I'll get my things right. Because it was a big spider. But it's a question of little fears and that we have. Other things as far as Dad, I got my hat, my girls got me this year. One year, I've had this for a couple of years now. It says, "Bank of Dad, do I look like an ATM?" Evidently, because they keep coming back. I also put up here this. In case you don't know, this is a referee's hat. When you have more than one child, you wear this quite often. It was funny, when I was talking to Patrick, Patrick's like, "Yeah, I need to throw a flag on my children sometimes." I said, "Yeah, illegal touching. Illegal use of hands. Personal foul." It happens. And then I have these ties. You know what? In Father's Day ties, I have several of them here. I'll tell a story of how your children see you. One, this one has golf clubs wrapped around a pole. That's pretty around the flagpole on the golf course. That was pretty self-evident. I think it tells a story. Then down here, as this one's got about every sport I've coached on it. This one here is funny because this is actually my favorite one. It's got Tigger, Pooh, and all that on it because that's what you think of them. Then we had to be patriotic. And evidently very loud. Our colors are loud, aren't they? And then, so we're spiritual. We have some spiritual ties that we wear. Now, all of them went out of style in like 1994. But they're still in my closet. They'll be there forever. And so we got those. And then the last one they got that I brought here today that I wanted to share with you is says, "Dad, our champion." And champions are the ones that conquer things. And so it's greatly appreciated of me when my daughters, they think of me as their champion. I'm undefeated against spiders. Did you know that one of the most fervent spider killers is oven cleaner? You spray it till they foam. And when they foam, they shrivel up and die. You think about what that does to your oven. I couldn't find any raid, any killer, and I saw oven cleaner, and I went, "That's got to do it." I killed a whole nest of those things. You ever stepped on a spider, like 3,000 of them like that? I was laying down a path with that stuff. So anyway, fear is a strong emotional reaction to imminent danger. Real or imagined, rational or irrational. It causes a release of adrenaline, which leads to fight, flight, or freeze. If you haven't noticed, 1 Samuel 17 is David and Goliath. A story that most people have heard. I'm not going to say everybody because I can't speak for everybody. But we're going to go through it. We'll read some, we'll paraphrase some, we'll get through it. But we're going to work down the scripture. Just like lunch, we're going to chew it a little bit. Okay? Here we go. Now the Philistines gathered their forces of war and assembled on Succoth and Judah. They pitched camp in Ephes-Dammim between Succoth and Azekah. Saul and the Israelites assembled and camped in the valley of Elah and drew up their battle line to meet the Philistines. Here's what we need to know about the first two verses. The Philistines are on this side of the valley, and the Israelites are on this side of the valley. They're facing each other. They're at war. A champion named Goliath, who was from Gath, came out of the Philistine camp. His height was 6 cubits. Is this me? Am I too? Is that better? I don't know. I'm making noise. His height was 6 cubits in a span. How many of you can tell me how much it is right off the top of your head? You knew that from a story, didn't you? Somebody told you. Or you got a study Bible? Yeah, you got a study Bible. You got cheaters? Yeah. It's somewhere, the Mosaic law has it this, and which is somewhere between 9 feet and 9'9". In the Septuagint and some others, it has it somewhere between 6'6" and 7 foot. The average height of a man at this time was 5'5". So I don't care if it was 6'6" or 9'6". He was a good bit taller and bigger than everybody else. Now, as you're going to look in here, it'll also say, down here, that it says he had a bronze helmet on his head. He wore a coat of scale armor. Now, the Philistines were on the ocean, so they're a fishing society. So it made sense. That's the kind of armor they make. So instead of chainmail, like we see in like the knights in shining armor would wear, this is scale armor. The scale armor, because it says that it was 5,000 shekels. Sounds like a lot, doesn't it? It is. It's about 125 pounds. He better be 9 foot. Because after wearing it, he's going to be 6'6", because he's going to crunch him. He had bronze greaves on his legs. He had a bronze javelin that was 8 to 10 feet long, and the point of it weighed almost 15 pounds. The point of the spear. Verse 8 says, Goliath stood and shouted to the ranks of Israel, "Why do you come out and line up for battle? Am I not a Philistine, and are you not a servant of Saul? Choose a man and have him come down to me. If he is able to fight and kill me, we will become your subjects. But if I overcome him and kill him, you will become our subjects and serve us." Then the Philistines said, "This day I defy the armies of Israel. Give me a man and let us fight each other." On hearing the Philistines' words, Saul and all the Israelites were dismayed and terrified. You got to understand, at this time, Saul, the king of Israel, was a head and foot taller than all the other people talked about. If anybody should have been fighting Goliath, it was the king. But he and all of his people were terrified. This is something that fear does to us. One, he didn't want to attack all the Israelites at the same time, did he? He wanted one. He wanted to isolate one. I will tell you here and now that the devil wants to isolate us. He wants it to make us feel like it's us against him. And there is no victory. There's no chance. Goliath is supremely confident right here. Matter of fact, he's making a statement for his king. He's like, if you beat me, we'll be your subjects. That's quite a bold man. That's a very confident man. Verses 12 through 15. Jesse was David's dad. Jesse had 8 sons. That poor guy. Can you imagine the referee had that guy away with 8 sons, all mauling each other, and you know what? That's like a basketball team with 3 subs right there coming into it. His 3 oldest followed Saul because Jesse was a little older at this time. David was the youngest. Verse 16. For 40 days the Philistine came forward every morning and evening and took his stand. Fear is in our face all the time. Decisions we have to make, relationships we got to mend. If there's something that will cause fear, it stays there. It doesn't go away. Can you imagine the stamina it took every morning? I mean, after about 3 days, you think this is getting old. Let's go ahead and fight each other. And he came out and ran away. Now Jesse said to his son David, take this ephah, this roasted grain. Basically, he's like, go and feed your brothers. 19, they are with Saul and all the men of Israel in the valley of Elah, fighting against the Philistines. The only problem is not much fighting going on. Verse 20, early in the morning David left the flock in care of a shepherd, loaded up and set out as Jesse had directed. He reached the camp as the army was going out to its battle positions. For me, I keep thinking of being that spider. I'm in my battle position. And I'm deciding when I'm going to crush it. And thinking if it jumps down my arm, I'm done. Right? They're in their battle positions. Verse 21, Israel and the Philistines were drawing up their lines facing each other. David left his things with the keeper of supplies, ran to the battle lines, and asked his brothers how they were. He was supposed to do that. He was doing what his father asked him to do. As he was talking with them, Goliath, the Philistine champion of Gath, stepped out from his lines and shouted his usual defiance. And David heard it. This time, God's champion. And see, that's what he's been waiting for. Goliath has been waiting for somebody to represent Israel, to come out as their champion. And if he can defeat him, then he is the ruler. Fear does that to us. Fear wants to be the champion of our life. It wants to rule you. Sometimes more than a spider. You ever try to kill a wasp with a hanky or a piece of Kleenex? I've never seen my grandfather run before except for once. He was trimming the hedges and he trimmed right through a hornet's nest. I was like, man, Pat can move. I don't know what has happened, but I just saw him sprint across the yard. As we get into this, verse 25. Now the Israelites have been saying, do you see how this man keeps coming out? He comes out to defy Israel. The king will have great wealth. Will give great wealth to the man who kills him. He will also give him his daughter in marriage and will exempt him from taxes in Israel. I love it how in this story that somehow taxes is thrown in. Hey, he's going to basically reward him, give him his daughter, and oh yeah, he won't have to pay taxes forever. Like that's going to seal the deal. But it's in here. Verse 26, David asked the men standing near him, "What will be done for the man who kills the Philistine and removes this disgrace from Israel?" And they basically repeated to him. Down in verse 28, when Eliab, David's oldest brother, heard him speaking with the men, he burned with anger at him. I want to tell you what, that when other people are willing to step forward, those who are afraid get angry. I could have done it. It's like the person who tries to open the jar and the other person opens it. Well, I loosened it. I loosened it. He burned with anger. Why have you come down here? And with whom did you leave a few sheep in the wilderness? One of the things that they will do is, as they're challenging, they will also change the subject to get us off what everybody was afraid of. They'll change the subject and then put it back on us. You notice he changed it. He says, why are you here? Oh, and who's taking care of the sheep? Fear wants to distract us. David says, now what have I done? Verse 29, can I even speak? He then turned away to someone else and brought up the same matter. And the men answered him as before. Verse 32 says, David said to Saul, let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. Your servant will go and fight him. What we find out earlier in Samuel is that David was really already the king's armor bearer. Many historians believe that David was only about 5'4". So can you imagine the task? He's seen Goliath now. He's about 5'4". Goliath, 6'9" to 7 or 9 feet. That makes a difference. That's a big man. If he's able to carry 125 pounds worth of armor, and that's just the coat. It covers the sides, it goes all the way around. Have a helmet on, sheath on, and carry a spear or a sword that has a 15-pound tip to it. The king said this, you are not able to go out against this Philistine and fight him. You are only a young man, and he has been a warrior from his youth. Fear wants to convince us that we're not ready. Tell you what, as fathers, man, we don't feel ready. I'll never forget the moment I found out when Terry told me that Jacqueline, we were going to have Jacqueline, well, we were going to have a baby, which turned out to be Jacqueline. Here's a tip for you ladies that are going to be wives, or you wives that are not pregnant yet, and one day you have a child. Do not tell your husband the first time you're going to have a child when he's at the top of the stairs. I climbed the top of the stairs in our apartment, and my wife turns to me and hands me a pair of socks. It says, Daddy on them. And I looked at her, and she shook her head. She caught me. No, she caught me. She saved my life that day, because I was going. Matter of fact, it must have been divine intervention, because that's a little lady, and this is a big body that she stopped from going down the stairs. Verse 34, but David said to Saul, your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or bear came and carried off a sheep from the flock, I went after it, struck it, and rescued the sheep from its mouth. When it turned on me, I seized it by the hair, struck it, and killed it. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear. This uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, because he has defied the armies of the living God. Fear defies our God. It is. Fear that is from Satan is meant to defy God, and it's meant to make us. It's meant to challenge us to where we won't act. You know, David here, he's seen the fear that everybody has. He's seen the object of the fear. And David has already decided in his life, that I'm going to go after it. David is the great spider hunter. Now, if it is said in here that he killed a 6-foot spider, then I'd be impressed. No. Saul said to David, "Go, and the Lord be with you." Verse 38. Then Saul dressed David in his own tunic. He put a coat of armor on him and a bronze helmet on his head. David fastened his sword over the tunic and tried walking around because he was not used to them. When we go to deal with fear, everybody will try to give you advice and how to take care of it. Now, the main advice is when he said, "May God be with you and the Lord be with you." But then they all say, "Here's how I would do it. Here's how I would handle the situation." And while we can take that in and David can take that under advisement, ultimately David's got to know, I am not you. And I've got to deal with this situation my own way. David said, "I cannot go in these," he said to Saul, "because I am not used to them." So he took them off. Then he took his staff in his hand. He chose 5 smooth stones from the stream, put them in the pouch of his shepherd's bag, and with his sling in his hand, approached the Philistine. See, David's gone out from the king into the battle. He's getting into the battle, going past the battle positions now, right? He's stepping out. He is moving past the security of the line where all the men are. He picks up 5 smooth stones. Some people may go, "Well, why does he pick 5? If he's got that much faith in God, why wouldn't 1 do?" We don't know God's timing. We don't know how God's going to act. He didn't know how God was going to handle this. So he picked up 5 stones. Verse 41, meanwhile, the Philistine with his shield bearer in front of him. Remember how cocky I said that Goliath was? He was so cocky at 9 foot tall that he walked out with his little shield bearer in front of him. Ultimately, I would tell you this. Fear is a coward. Fear only has as much strength as you give it. Amen? Let me say it again. Fear only has as much strength as you give it. It's amazing how when you're out hunting spiders, the little spider, as Jackie said, "Dad, it's that big." Verse 42, all of a sudden Goliath goes, he looked David over and saw that he was little more than a boy, glowing with health and handsome, and he despised him. Maybe he was big and ugly. But we know he was big, maybe he was ugly. Verse 43, he said to David, "Am I a dog that you come at me with sticks?" And the Philistines cursed David by his gods. "Come here," he said, "and I will give your flesh to the birds and wild animals." Once he walked out with him. Goliath, like I said, this cocky 9 foot tall guy walked out with his armor bearer in front of him. Once he was able to see David, and he sized him up, then all of a sudden he could put the armor bearer aside, and he saw that he was a boy, and then he could move forward. Verse 45, and David said to the Philistines, "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty." When we face fear and we have the right strength, I know that sounds weird, but you understand what I'm saying. From the very moment he saw Goliath, David never saw that. All he saw was an opportunity for God. It says this in 46, "This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and I'll strike you down and cut off your head. You think anybody's ever talked to Goliath like that before? Let alone a 5'4" little whippersnapper. This very day I will give the carcasses of the Philistine army to the birds and the wild animals. And you notice how with God, it wasn't just, I'm going to kill you. We're going to kill you, but then we're going to give the carcasses of the army. David went up to him here. Verse 47, all those who gathered will know that it is not by sword or spear that the Lord saves. Here's one of my favorite verses in all Scripture. For the battle is the Lord's. We have got to understand as Christians, as we face the trials of this life, when we face what causes us fear, the battle is not ours. The result is not ours. Ours is but to go out in faith and do as God commanded and leave the results up to Him. Because the battle is the Lord's. And He will give all of you into our hands. We're getting there. Last 10 verses. See, it's going faster. I would stop. Maybe not. As the Philistine moved closer to attack him, David quickly ran toward the battle line to meet him. Reaching into his bag and taking out a stone, he slung it and struck the Philistine in the forehead. The stone sank into his forehead and he fell face down on the ground. See, I think it's actually very poetic how Goliath died. It wasn't a spear in the side. It wasn't an arrow through. It was a direct attack that David met him face on. Hit him straight in the forehead with the rock. And then he fell face down. Fear, when it is met with God's power, will fall flat on its face. So David triumphed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone. Without a sword in his hand, he struck down the Philistine and killed him. David ran and stood over him. He took the hold of the Philistine's sword and drew it from the sheath. After he killed it, he cut off his head with the sword. When the Philistines saw that their hero was dead, they turned and ran. I will tell you this, fear doesn't just leave, it flees. When fear is met with the power of God, it runs, it flees, it just doesn't disappear. Verse 54. David took the Philistine's head and brought it to Jerusalem. He put the Philistine's weapons in his own tent. Now I've said all this to get these last couple verses. As Saul watched David going out to meet the Philistine, he said to Abner, the commander of the army, Abner, whose son is that man? The Bible got it right. Tell you what, you teach your young men, you teach your girls. I mean, think about it. You ever watch an NFL game and they finally put the camera on, and the dad is, done all the stuff with this kid, brought him up, helped coach him, and he says, "Hi, Mom." Whose son is that young man? Abner replied, "As surely as you live, Your Majesty, I don't know." The king said, "Find out whose son this young man is." As soon as David returned from killing the Philistine, Abner took him and brought him before Saul, with David still holding the Philistine's head. "Whose son are you, young man?" Saul asked him. David said, "I am the son of your servant Jesse of Bethlehem." Without Jesse, here's what I'm going to imply. Let's look at this. Without a father like Jesse showing David how to use the sling, without a father like Jesse showing him the faith in God that he had and the strength of the Lord, without a father like Jesse, there would be no David. My wife and I were looking through videos today, and we chose these. And there was one video where it gave statistics about all the thousands and millions and stuff of young people who are lost today because they come from fatherless homes. There's a reason why God created man and woman to make a family. But here's what I want to tell you though. I come from a single parent home. My mom, I love her. And single moms and single dads that have to be, more power to you because you're doing the work too. My mom, I go back and I thank her because I said she was a survivor. It's amazing I lived with all the stuff I got into. It's amazing she didn't kill me with all the stuff I got into. But I want to tell you this, and I'm not slighting those. Everybody understand me? I come from a single parent home. I am not slighting that whatsoever. But what I am telling you is this, is there's a reason why God made man and woman to make a family. As the mom, as the nurturer, and the caregiver, and the gatherer of things that goes up. The father's the pillar of strength. I'll never forget. It's one of the saddest days I had as a father. Anyway. I was coming around the corner, and Terry was talking to Jacqueline. And Jacqueline was talking about all the things we've done. I'd throw her in the air and catch her. My daughters were all kung fu babies. Meaning that they would hide on the top of the couch, and you come around the corner. Yes, you included Daniel. They would jump off and yell, "Ah!" and I'd catch them. Now, my father-in-law is only 5'6". I'm 6'3", and weigh a little bit about 100 pounds more than he does. Probably more now. Anyway, he was coming around the corner and he was babysitting for the first time. And one of them said, "Ah!" and jumped and put him on the ground. Pinned him right there. I was so happy. No. But I come around and I listen to Jackie talk to Terry about stuff we've been doing and everything else. And she says, and Jackie says this. She says, "Mom, I got to tell you something. Did you know Dad can't fly?" That killed me. Up until that point of her life, I could do anything. And the fact that she realized that I couldn't, that I may have limitations, somehow it devastated me for a while. I told Terry about it. I was crying. I'm like, I gotta learn how to fly. I'm looking for Peter Pan and pixie dust, whatever I need. Balloons. It doesn't have to be a lot, just a couple inches. Without a godly father, we may not have David. Dads, it's time to stand up and live for Jesus, because the next hero of the faith may be watching you in your own home. It's time for us to face the fear and defeat it, meeting it with the power that only God can provide. If David would have relied on his own strength, he would have never been victorious. But the mindset that he had to face the fear, I am positive, came from his father. And as he had success as a young boy and began to grow in the faith and grow in strength and stature, he then had the confidence to do what he needed to do. And he had the confidence in himself, but more than that, he had confidence in God. That his God will sustain him, his God will provide for him, and his God will see him through. All he had to do was act. 58 verses, you did it. Today, I want to pray for everyone. I want to pray for fathers today. Both present and future. And then I've got a gift for all the dads. And anyway, but I want to thank you for welcoming again. We're coming up to a year for me being here. Of course, me 10 months and Terry a year. We've been in the hospital for 2 months. But that's coming up, and I appreciate the way you've taken in my family. And we love you again. I'm never going to stop saying it. I'll be here, whatever, 5, 10 years, as long as you'll have me. And I'll still be thankful that you guys took us in. But I want to tell you about my kids, though. I was up, I got 2 of them not here today, but 2 of them have been with me today already. Because at 3 o'clock this morning, I'm getting text messages from Miranda, who's directing a play in Oklahoma, and Jackie, who's teachers, which I'm going to talk to, by the way, right to Reed's dads. I'm going to go down there and straighten these people out. You know, especially when it comes to schools. We're going to take care of this. Give them an assignment over Father's Day weekend that they got to get done. But they're already texting me. Dad, love you, Dad, all that kind of stuff. And I know I read that poem earlier where it talked about Dad's Day. I can do whatever I want. But you know what? Getting up, talking to them, seeing my wife, it's all I need. It's all I need. That's the perfect day. Let's go to prayer. Fathers, we come to you this morning. Oh, Jesus, we love you. Father, our theme this year is living surrender. I pray for fathers right now that they will surrender. Surrender to you. Their lives, their families' lives, their relationship with their wife, and their relationship with their children. Precious God, allow them to live that life surrender so they can be bold and overcome fear. Empower us through Jesus to do things for you, things our family will marvel at, because it's only through your power that we can accomplish them. Precious God, we love you and we thank you. You are our Heavenly Father. And today on Father's Day, we thank you, dear Jesus. We thank you. Be with us now as we go home, we celebrate. Let's call our dads, our grandpas, our uncles, our friends that are fathers. Let us encourage them, let them know they were prayed for. That we as a church are going to make a difference in the lives of our families. In your precious and sweet name we pray.